Really has a gorgeous house.
Thank you so much.
Mary, can you
I'll have to
open
have
your
everyone
camera?
over to see it. That's how we'll do it.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're live. We're ready to go, everyone. All right. Good evening to all of our viewers, live and future. I'm Will Scott. I'm the chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission. This is our second monthly meeting, which we usually use only to conduct administrative business. But because we don't meet in August, we are reviewing one application for approval and a few other matters that might normally fall outside of the administrative umbrella as a courtesy to the applicants because they would have to wait until September to be heard. So with that said, would the commissioners who are present introduce themselves for the record?
Bill Williams, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Mary?
Mary Bannon, Commissioner.
And Cecil?
Cecil Cummins, Commissioner.
Thank you. 4 commissioners are present, which meets our requirement for a quorum. So we can conduct business and authorize approvals or denials of applications. We have 2 members of the staff present. Would they introduce themselves, beginning with the Chief of Preservation?
I'm John Tower, Chief of Historic Preservation.
I am Elizabeth Beckley, Assistant Chief of Historic Preservation.
Great. So with that said, we will call the meeting to order. And I would remind everybody who's listening that one of the things about having a remote meeting is that we do not have the public comment period that we would normally have. Although, John, help me out here.
This is a little different. Some have made, for instance, John Richards is intending to make a short presentation, and I think others have submitted comment on 247 King George Street, but I think John Richards is the only person who's intending to speak.
Oh, good. And I saw the written commentary or comment. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Someone said, and have you did you send that to everyone, or did I discover it by reading through the staff report?
They're all on the Google Drive, and I think they've all been sent, but I did not because they were coming in late, I didn't edit my staff report.
Okay.
I think there were 4 that were sent out in email to everyone.
That's correct.
I think I only saw 1.
May I actually ask a quick question of everybody?
Of course.
Is everyone comfortable with accessing the Google Drive? We want to make sure that the documents are readily available for you whenever you need them. And, you know, for some people, it's they're not familiar with how it works. So I just wanted to check in. And if anybody needs a primer on it, please don't hesitate to reach out and let any of us know.
I know
I'll add, if anybody has trouble with it, one of the things, Google drives me crazy. So every time it's sent to me, I add a shortcut into my own folder.
Sorry, that's my
drive.
direction.
And that way I have it in the same spot every time in my drive. If you don't add a shortcut to your drive to access it, you have to go to your shared files. And for some reason, Google is always changing how they organize your files.
Yes.
And drive. So it's that might be a tip that helps.
Thank you. That is helpful. Well, if anybody needs help with that, please reach out and let us know, because it's important that you have access to all the materials ahead of time. And so
I've become comfortable with it, but I don't check it all the time. So, you know, like if an update comes in or something, I might, as with this, miss it. So if you could send Cecil or Biz that shortcut, how you do that shortcut.
When it's emailed to us in that link, you open it, there's three dots at the top. You could just, and it's like, it's where you would organize a file essentially. And you could just say, or like you go to organize it and it just says add shortcut to your drive. That's, and I can walk, I don't mind walking you through it if you'd like, but it's, when you open the file that they send you in an email and then you go to organize it in Google, you just, that's where you'll see the option to add a shortcut.
Thank
See,
you.
you're over my head already, but I think I can remember that, and Biz, you'll remind me if I need reminding.
Yes,
John,
sir.
I had
Absolutely.
a question. If and you might have already planned this, but there seems to be a little bit of confusion on what was approved and what is still up for approval, and specifically as it pertains to the parking area and the carriage house. But when we're ready to start on 247, would you mind just like clarifying for the record what specifically was already approved? And I know that you have recommendations in there, but I was under the impression that some of the things might have been approved and then some were subject to further conditions.
Well, I could say it right
Cecil?
now, so we don't take too much time.
Gentlemen,
Mhm.
Cecil, you read my mind. Excellent. I was going to ask John to do that. So John, so that we don't kind of spin our wheels and waste everyone's time on this matter, can
Mhm.
you clarify, as Cecil requested, what we've approved? And then if you could go next to what you've recommended approval of, and I don't see Mr. Fishback or anyone from their team.
Ruby is probably going to make the presentation.
Okay, because I want whoever that is leading their team tonight to acknowledge that some things are approved, and then ask them if they've reviewed your report and accept the recommended approvals you've made. Then we commissioners can vote on those, and then we can move on to their presentation about.
Well, and Andrew Fishback did write a letter stating what he was under the impression, which was approved and what wasn't, and that's what prompted my question too. I don't know if you read that letter yet.
Can you guys hear me?
Who's that?
This is Andrew Fishback with Heyman Wilson.
Oh, well,
I'm
can
here,
we-
so if there's any confusion, I'm here and ready to go through the
Good,
presentation.
Good, and I appreciate your indulging us by waiting for tonight to actually hear this matter. So if, Paul, if you would promote Mr. Fishback, I think he should be part of the discussion. And I feel like I'm just talking into the void if I don't see his face.
Oh, can you see me?
No. It's probably just your camera.
Yeah, yeah, we could promote Bob Ruby as well.
Sure, if that's appropriate. The more the merrier, really.
Yeah, so
Still
I'm not
can't
sure.
see either of you guys. There we go. Ah, okay, good. Where's Andrew?
It says my camera is being used by another application, so I don't know what that. Oh, here we go.
See a black
Isn't
box.
technology wonderful?
Sometimes.
There we go. There I am.
Good.
Right.
There he is.
Sorry about
Okay.
that.
John, if you would do that, enumerate the things that we have already approved and make sure that Mr. Fishback and Mr. Ruby understand that those don't really need further discussion.
So,
And I-
according,
John, real quick, I have a exhibit that I created that highlights what we thought was approved in red, and maybe that might be a better visual indicator. I don't know. I'll take your lead, but I could pull it up and you can say, hey, that's wrong or that's right. And I can kind of indicate that on the plan. Maybe that's
oh,
helpful.
I can say it verbally. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's, so the curb cut and the new drive for the garage addition, staff approved, commission approved the proposed porch for the side, the Victorian porch. I believe the front porch is also approved. The walk from the porch is approved. I think the swimming pool is approved. And then landscaping is not approved. The circular driveway is not approved. Let me see. What does that leave? And
The door onto the onto the porch on the driveway side, we're going to turn that back into a door. I believe that was approved,
yeah, yes,
but not the windows
Correct.
from the ballroom out to the porch. That was not
That's
approved.
my recollection also.
Yeah, those were
So-
made. That was an error in one of the drawings.
Does
Yeah.
that seem correct to you, Andrew?
I believe so. I think if I could share that diagram, it will just bring some clarity because
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, please.
let me share my screen here. All right. So this is what we had thought was approved. And so, John, you indicated, in addition, I'll just highlight it in red, this kind of section, the curb cut,
Right. Yes.
something like this, final layout to be determined based on the outcome of other components of the revision. But this addition of the fence, we understood that to be approved, the historic fence, the addition of the carriage house, and then the pool. You said the pool, but we weren't sure if that included the hardscape component of it. And then the privacy fence to the left. Can you
Well,
see my?
Well, the privacy fence, I think that was approved.
Yeah.
But now we have plantings that you're showing there, which are not approved.
Correct. Just the planting, none of the plantings.
I have a copy of the notice of decision if anybody would like that.
I think that rather than taking the time to read that, I'm satisfied that we all understand what has been approved and we can move on to the issues that were new issues that were recommended for denial by the staff. Everyone agree? Commissioners and applicant staff? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Agreed.
So now let's return to our normal procedure, which is for the applicant to first make their presentation to what they're asking for us to approve this evening. Then we'll have the staff respond. But before that happens, for the record, I'm sure that the commissioners present are very familiar with this site. It's a prominent site. We've reviewed this application 2 times without completing the review and approval or denial of the application. And so for the record, that's correct. And you've read the staff report in advance. All the commissioners, if you would just signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. So Fred, if you'd go ahead and take it from there.
Andrew, right?
And, sorry.
We look similar. Oh, well, thanks, Commission. Thanks for hearing us and allowing us to attend this meeting to present our project from the previous week. As we stated, we've come across the board twice over the last year to review the elements of this project, and I have Bob Ruby, the landscape architect, with me as well. Do we need to swear in?
You do. Please raise your right hands. All right. Do you swear that the testimony you're prepared to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Proceed.
Great. So just to revisit briefly and quickly kind of the past discussion, based on our discussion we just had of what was approved, we had ended the meeting previously after speaking with Jim Urban and all agreeing that there was really no effect of the driveway onto the tree. But then we withdrew the circular driveway based on some staff comments from planning and zoning related to the curb cuts and site visibility triangles for the project. So that part was removed. And we left the meeting, and our client was, the circular driveway is a very critical component to the project here. And, we wanted to come back to the board and make sure that we had the right and done kind of the right things in place and done our due diligence to ensure that, the curb cuts in the driveway were an approvable part of the project. So we enlisted the traffic engineer to understand the flow of the traffic and the impact that the proposed driveway would have on the traffic and the site visibility triangles. And they concluded that really 0 to no impact wouldn't create a safety hazard. Was the conclusion of the report. And so we spoke to both the director. We submit the report independently to the planning and zoning director and DPW director, and had their staff review it. And they both agreed in writing, and I have the emails to present or to submit as part of the record approval of the curb cuts and the site visibility triangles, just for confirmation, because there was some information in the staff report that seemed that it may not be approvable here. So I just want to make sure that was clear for the record that based on the review of city agencies, both Public Works and DPW approved the curb cuts and the site visibility triangle as submitted based on these approvals here. This is from the city website. In addition, I have documentation just for clarity from the director of DPW approving the site visibility triangle that as it was submitted. Burr Vogel approves or confirms that it is a approvable plan, and the site visibility triangles are not a problematic and not approvable. So I have that information here. I can submit it for the record if need be, and then there's information in the code as well. So I just wanted to get that, share those components of the application with the commission, so everyone knew the project as proposed is approvable through.
You do need to submit that for the record.
How would I? What's the best way to submit these pieces virtually?
Well, yeah, I think you can submit them virtually or in hard copy to the staff.
Okay, just so I can do that following up after this meeting.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So going for that, moving on, what was left as kind of unapproved from the previous in our mind was the circular driveway and associated plantings on site, and some of the additional components to that. So, and Bob Ruby will talk about the landscape components of it first, but I want to go through the kind of the historical past of the project and focus on the historical driveway. So, we have historic photos dating back from approximately 1900 to 1915 that clearly document the historic driveway, circular driveway. You can see it in this image here. I'll just flip ahead real quick. So here's a historic image. Here's the driveway in its circular form, highlighted for you to see here. Here's an additional one, a little more mid 20th century. I think John submitted some photos that are similar to this that show it with the automobile. Here's again another picture. You can see a car here. There's a driveway. Again, between 1905 and 1915. Here is another picture of it, and in addition to that, this is a photo that we found, the historic aerial of the Naval Academy. And here's our site here. You can see our project. Let me zoom in here, and you can vaguely see it. It's, you can zoom in here. There's a U-shaped form through here that shows it in its presence of the curb cuts. And this is around 1900 to 1915, according to the source on the Naval Historic Heritage Command archive. So I'll just highlight that for you so you can see it there. So that's what we have in the early 19th century. So, really predated the automobile era and was, primarily used for horse and carriage, especially given the prominence of this site. And, the circular driveway existed, for the need of the horse drawn carriages and as part of the formal state planning characterized by, this prominent residence. And it, allowed for horse-drawn carriages to arrive and depart without reversing. Create a formal arrival sequence for the ballroom and principal residence, and provided a dignified location for guests to disembark. So really is part of the history here, and we think these photographic evidence kind of support that. And part of the Secretary of Interior Standards states that, and they recognize that historic preservation encompasses not only buildings but historically significant site features and cultural landscape. The standard encourages retaining historic features and relationships that identify the property. Where historic features have been lost, the standard permits the restoration when supported by documentation evidence. And that's what we have here. The circular driveway is not based upon speculation. It is supported by clear photographic documentation from the 1900s to 1915, demonstrating that it was clearly a component of Ogallhall's landscape and defines the property at that period. So with that, I'll kind of hand it over to Bob to go over the way we oriented on the site and the landscape features that are associated with it.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Fishback from the commissioners at this point?
Yeah. Andrew, you mentioned you were just, you said the circular driveway is just extremely important, right? I can see the convenience of it. I can see, the historical evidence you provided. I can, I appreciate the traffic study. That's incredibly helpful because I know a lot of comments were focused on that. But you said that it was imperative. I mean, walk me through how it's more than a convenience for this homeowner.
Well, the homeowner is very, the reason he purchased this site is he is very intrigued and is a historian himself, and would like to restore the property back to how it was in the period of significance based on the photographic photos. So without it, I'm not sure where this would lead him, but it's very critical that this be part of the project based on his kind of or based on what he'd like to see for the house.
And well, and your response here doesn't necessarily, push me one way or another. I just want to better understand, there's whether if the circular driveway is approved, he's very happy. If it's not like it hurts him, right? I mean, is there a detriment?
I think he envisions using this property with the circular drive. That would be a question for him, but that's how he illustrated that it's an important feature, and he'd be willing to forego other portions of the project and plantings and alter other things. But the circular driveway was something that he wasn't really willing to consider something different there.
I understand. No, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Yes, that is helpful.
Everything you provided was very helpful. So I just wanted to ask that too.
That was a good question, I think, because it may help us focus in on what is more, shorten our need for discussion and information. So you mentioned, Mr. Fishback, that the owner rather, might be willing to comply with some of the lack of recommendation for approval from the staff on the landscaping. Is that a fair statement?
I think he's willing to keep things, I guess, planting, not change new plantings accordingly.
Because the staff makes some pretty specific recommendations, and if we could agree that the staff's recommendations are, that is, we, the commission, are ones that should be supported, and the applicant is flexible, then we might just hear from Mr. Ruby and then act on that. And we'd come back to the difficult question of the circular drive.
Yeah, I think that we could be open to that. But I think if we present, we have some additional imagery in here that helps visualize the proposed project here, and I think it'd be important to see that first. And
You mean
then-
about the landscape?
Yeah, correct. Landscaping.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, I'm not saying we shouldn't hear it. I'm just saying that we might see it so that everybody is well informed and talking about the same plantings and issues, but move on to the staff's recommendations. Because that is what's going to come next, unless the commissioners have other questions of you and Mr. Ruby.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
let's hear from Mr. Ruby.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Loud
Hello?
and clear.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Hey, Andrew, can you be my cursor? I don't think I
Yeah.
have cursor
Can you-
available.
Can you see it?
I see your hand moving. Let's move to the King George Street facade. And I wanted to maybe just based on the quick discussion that we just had, I'm hoping to actually get some clarity on the staff's comments and recommendations for the landscape because they aren't incredibly clear to me, but this plan kind of illustrates my understanding of the board's comments, as well as trying to balance that with what our client wants to see for this property. And I wanted to point out first, let's start at the historic original Oval Hall, which is the 1742 part of the building, which we know that the door on the King George Street side was not the primary entrance. It was a garden door, which is how the owner intends to use it. And I think the board has already approved the idea of the terrace. The owner is infatuated with the existing landscape around this building, and he doesn't want us to remove it or redo it. So what I'm trying to do here on the King George Street side is to present a landscape that preserves the plantings that are there, that he loves, and adds a landscape that would have been appropriate to a colonial era. So the parterre influenced boxwood lined walkway and terrace are added with the retention of the plants that exist between it and the building. So we're not redoing the landscape. We're not adding foundation plantings here. We're making very minor edits to the landscapes that's there. We're filling in a few areas that are just bare mulch right now, with plants that are, of like sort of the most colonial era plants that I know of. But that's not much. So we're really not changing the landscape that exists here, but we're adding this, very symmetrical, very Georgian sort of parterre influence landscape in front. That's the approach for, the most historic part of the property that faces King George Street. And as we move around to the College Avenue side, here we see a landscape that is sort of restoring what we saw in those photographs from, the 1885 to 1930s, which seems like in our minds kind of an era of significance for this side of the building, which had a lot of additions at that time. The porch, the covered porch was added, and we see the covered porch in the same photographs that we saw the circular driveway. So plantings that exist there now, we're talking about, there's hollies and boxwoods and azaleas, dogwoods. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, who's got the boombox?
I think it's gone away. So the plantings against the house are the plantings that were there. And, these plantings are organized in the foundation style that was kind of became prevalent in the 19th, the 19th and 20th century. With the addition, so that's remaining. We're not changing that. The addition or the return of the circular driveway, we were influenced by the photograph that lined it with a hedge. So we've suggested a U hedge to line, in some cases, both sides of this driveway. You can see that the new portion of the driveway is screened by this hedge from King George Street, and the deeper portion of it is screened from College Avenue by this hedge. And U's have a significant connection to this site, associated with Lafayette's visits, as well as the iconic hedges at St. John's College. So that's the choice of the U's were to emulate some of the historic photos, as well as soften this hardscape addition to this side of the property. Now the 20th century edition of the carriage house currently has foundation plantings around it, and we were basically simplifying those and restoring them because we know that they'll probably be damaged in the restoration of that, in the construction of the driveway. So a simple boxwood border will line the building, separating the cars from the house. The old driveway that existed there where the two cars parked, the existing driveway is there, but you enter directly off the street to those parking spaces. So we turned them off of the new driveway and we screen them from the streets with plantings, which I believe you guys have approved that idea. And the historic fence, it's a 20th century fence, which has become kind of an iconic symbol of the property. The wood and brick-based fence is being continued to the property line. So that's sort of the College Avenue landscape, basically. The rear garden, we know that in the 1775, when the ballroom was added, this was it became like the Annapolis plan, where you had like the central hallway, you had the ballroom, and it opened out to gardens. And there's references to there being gardens back there. So assuming that this is where Ogle entertained, and which is the use that the current new owner wants to do also, except for he wants a more contemporary place with a swimming pool and a reconfiguring the brick terrace that's there. We're actually removing paving, so ultimately there's more plantings in this part of the property. Now, I know that there was a question about the height of these arborvitae. So we have changed those in a more recent plan. So along where you see Andrew's cursor, those are low flowering shrubs because we don't want to hide the historic brick garden wall, which is referenced in text. And along the pool, we're using a holly that gets to maybe 6 to 8 feet tall. So it's going to be as tall as or slightly taller than the privacy fence. But those are the major changes back there. And there's plantings that are going to soften and block the view of this terrace from the driveway and from the street. So there's several layers of planting to keep this space private. To talk briefly about the fencing, if you could just zoom out just a little bit, Andrew. As you know, we're maintaining the existing fencing and restoring it. Where we're opening up the new entrances or moving the entrance, we're recreating the exact detail that is there now with the little returns in the brick and the returns in the fence. We're not adding any gates to this property. There's no gates proposed anywhere. So, I mean, in a nutshell, the most plantings that we're adding, other than the hedge along the driveway, the parterres on the King George Street, are the plantings back in the private little swimming pool area, which consists of boxwoods and hydrangeas and dogwoods and this holly that I just referenced that only gets 6 to 8 feet tall, and then flowering hydrangeas in front of the historic brick wall that this species stays relatively low. I think the plantings that we're adding up at the parking space at College Avenue to screen those cars, that's a viburnum hedge, which is a native species, and I don't believe there were any objections to that. There's also a dogwood being added there. Our plans specify all the plant material. Again, everything around the house on the College Avenue and King George side, we're essentially retaining what's there now and adding layers where appropriate. Now, Andrew we have some renderings that kind of show what this landscape looks like. And if we want to pause for questions now or go through these photographs.
I have one brief question, and then perhaps this is a lot of information, and I'll give the other commissioners an opportunity. Are you familiar with the Great U at Hampton Court Palace?
I am not.
The reason I ask is because I was going to be very impressed, and my decision would be affected if you had said yes. So I'm going to, no, you didn't fail. It is a gigantic yew that was planted by Henry VIII, or I think it was Henry VIII, or at his direction. And so it's at least a 16th century, 15th century plant.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons that yews were so popular in English formal plantings and in colonial plantings where people aspired to that kind of aristocratic taste. If you had said that you did know and that's the reason you chose yews, you would have had my vote with no questions.
Well, I mean, I did know that yews were plants that, were frequently used during this period, during colonial times.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
18th, yeah. It's good.
It's more style and taste than anything else.
Yeah.
They were hardy plants, you know that. So,
Right.
All right, that was my little self-indulgence. Do the other commissioners have any questions, or do you have more to say, Mr. Ruby?
I don't, except for presenting the renderings that kind of show what this landscape looks like from different angles from the street.
Well, I need to add something for clarity. So the
Okay.
hardscape was not approved. So I think you do need to talk about the hardscape. I know you talked about the driveway, but hardscape at the pool, the walks, and so on.
Okay, I'd be happy to go into that.
I just want to make sure that, we cross our T's and dot our I's.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I thought that the terrace on King George Street and the brick walkway was approved.
I thought so until I read the notice of decision. Again.
Ah,
Mm,
well, that's a good point, John, because I thought they were approved also.
yeah.
Right.
What's
Right.
the date on the notice of, was it the October or is it the November? Because we couldn't find
Well,
anything that reflected approvals from the November meeting.
yeah, I have to say when you get into the multiple meetings, sometimes it's hard to track everything, especially with your search. The date on this is October 17th,
Yeah, so
2025.
there was another meeting in November. and that's in my letter in the front, because it was not clear to us. And I thought November 12th, there was a hearing and there was never a certificate of approval issued for the things that were approved. And so we had reviewed the tapes to kind of.
Actually, I have a notice of decision from November 18th here for 247 King George Street. So, John, I will email this to you right now.
Does that include the approvals of these hardscape items, and does it have my signature on it?
It has, this is the notice of decision that was sent under Chris Jakubiak's letterhead to, I believe, well, to Chris and to Mayor and Council. It says, in brief, approved in concept, the proposed parking curb cut raised driveway associated with the carriage house and garage addition. Driveway topping has been changed to oyster shell. A plan redesign of the driveway and parking area are required and will be reviewed administratively.
That's
HPC.
the same as the October notice of
Is it?
decision.
Is it the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a modification, but
Oh, okay.
continue reading.
Wait, before you do that, I wish our attorney was with us, but I understand that this seemed like a pretty straightforward meeting, and I didn't request her attendance. It's my understanding that the Director of Planning and Zoning does not have the authority to override our decision if my signature has been applied.
Well, this is not
So
one that the copy I have did not require your signature. These are the 5 that were sent to the mayor and city council. So in order for that to be sent to them, you would have had to have signed one. Yes.
Okay. All right.
It is amended. It's not as in depth as the October meeting notice of decision, but the remainder of what it says really has to do with landscaping, approved areas of planting, specific species, includes trees, shrubs, plants, evergreens. Native plants are strongly recommended. Digging and excavation must be monitored by an archaeologist. That's where it ends.
So in other words, what it sounds like is there were no decisions on the plantings.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound as though the hardscape has been approved either.
No. We're literally between a rock and a hard place. It's unclear exactly what has been approved. So the only way I think we can proceed in fairness to all is to, if Mr. Ruby, do you have anything else you want to specifically reference? I think the illustrations are helpful, but not critical.
Conversely, I actually would really like to see the illustrations. That's important for me. I want to really, just because obviously I could see from a 2D perspective, but I'm a visual person, so I would really like to see the 3D. One comment I had, Bob, as well is, there's been several comments that we've had from Commissioner who's absent tonight and from the public about the plantings being more of a 20th century approach as opposed to an 18th century approach. I know you mentioned the current homeowners, love of some of the existing plantings, not looking to deviate too much. And I think the plantings you have here, look good. But can you talk a little bit more when you show the renderings about why you chose the plantings you did relative to the period and why there wasn't more of a focus on maybe an 18th century planting?
Please respond to Mr. Cummings.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could do that while you're going through the renderings, I guess. It doesn't have to be separate. Yeah.
Probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that in the renderings. There's a couple of existing conditions photos that we just recently took. So you can see the foundation plantings that are against the house, the hollies, there's roses there, there's boxwoods. This is what the owner loves this because it's what he's seen on this property since he's been coming to Annapolis. So he wants to retain that. And just go ahead and just keep going through here. We know this view along the fence from College Avenue side looking toward the cedar. tree. Another close up. You can see that there's that dogwood that is against the house, that tree against the house of the dogwood. We're keeping that. The hollies that are next to it in the corner, we're keeping those.
Hmm.
Another view of that. This opening is staying. This is along the 20th century carriage house. You see right on the right end of that. Yeah, there you go. There's where the parking spaces are now. And there's the foundation plantings that exist in not the best condition against the carriage house. Now here's the King George Street view of the proposed landscape. So we can see that we're not altering the foreground. So the fence is just as prevalent as it was before. Behind it are lawn, and up against the house, in front of the old block of Ogle Hall, you can see the low hedge, which is sort of a parterre influenced, colonial element in landscapes, is being used to define the terrace. You notice that and this is up for debate, but I left an opening in it thinking that it would be nice to actually keep the view open to these stairs that we're restoring on this side. So it's very strict symmetry, which is a very Georgian thing to do, and lining walkways and lining parterre gardens with boxwoods was a very sort of Georgian colonial thing to do. And so this is a layer that we're adding, and I'm trying to respond to the commission's comments about parterres being appropriate, but recognizing that there's a 20th century landscape that has existed for over 100 years behind this that the owner loves. So we're not adding a 20th century foundation planting. We're simply keeping what's there. And that's the approach in
But you
response.
do realize that there was no 18th century lawn furniture or patio furniture at all. When people wanted to entertain outdoors, they had their staff drag out furniture from the house. That's a 20th century patio. Pure and simple.
The patio is entertainment space. It's this new owner's version of the garden. We don't know what these
Right.
gardens look like.
No, look, I'm a historian of American art. They did not have lawn furniture in the 18th century. They
Right.
drug out furniture from the house if they wanted to entertain in the garden.
I'm not questioning that comment. I'd have to talk to the owner if he wanted to make sure that there were no furnishings ever out there except for when he was entertaining.
Do we have jurisdiction over furniture?
Well, yes, we do, because
We do.
our guidelines encourage us to not add layer on 20th century elements to a house of this significance. It's a very strict guideline. But anyway, I've not made up my mind, and I hope none of you have. We want to hear the rest of the presentation and the staff report,
Great.
and ask questions of the applicant and the staff.
And I think, just for the record, I don't think we're proposing approval of any outdoor furniture. That was just for visual.
Very okay.
Conceptual,
Just giving
That
scale.
takes care of my concern. Thank you. Do you have more, Mr. Ruby, that you would like to?
Yeah, we could just continue through here. You can see the new entrance off of College Avenue, and you can start to see that it's lined with this yew hedge and how we're replicating the details of how the fence opening happens. There's another shot, very similar. This is a very similar shot to some of the historic photos with the hedge-lined driveway leading to the front door, the re-added porch in the background, the yew tree, the cedar tree in the distance, an existing dogwood in the foreground, the existing dogwood against the building, and the rest of the 20th century landscape that exists against the building is being retained. Sort of a close-up of that. Here you can see that we're lining both sides of the driveway so that it's softened from both King George and College Avenue. Very similar. This particular photograph from the front door, the opening, that has not changed.
These are very helpful, by the way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to make sure that everybody understood the scale of the planting here was not meant to detract anything from the house. And that's why we use the historic photographic evidence to sort of to support our choices of landscape. And we're very carefully adding things to this landscape and not trying to completely redo it in a certain period.
Okay.
And I think this is a much improved view because the 20th century building is now softened with plantings, and the 2 car spaces have been moved inside that fence. So, and with the hedging obscuring anything that happens. And you can see the transition, the new brick curb cut transitioning to the oyster shell driveway. Oh, there's a nice close up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this kind of shows you the whole picture.
Yeah, there's a very useful, very helpful, I think. Does that conclude your presentation?
This, yes, that I could,
Well, actually, real quick, can you
Bob?
go back, Bob, can you go back
Yeah.
to that picture again?
Yeah, let's see what the
And
commissioners.
forgive me just because I don't, you've mentioned this several times, the certain heights, but I'm blanking on all the names of all the plants because I'm not a landscape architect. What is the possible height? I'm not talking about the desired or intended height. What is the possible height of the hedges that are going to line the driveway and the walkway and the hardscapes here?
these boxwoods can get to about 36 inches if allowed to.
So if
But-
there was no trimming whatsoever and they were just going wild, there would not be a circumstance where they would be taller than 36 inches.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Same with the hues. Like and these are plants that are intended to be trimmed anyway. And it's very typical to do it in this kind of very trimmed geometric parterre sort of order where you turn all the boxwoods kind of into a rectangular volume. The yews could be done that way too, but we've shown 2 different versions of maintaining a hedge plants. You can box them very geometrically, or you can allow them to retain their individual form. And I don't think either of them are historically significant ways of doing it. It's just 2 different ways to maintain a hedge.
If you cut a yew back too far, it doesn't grow back very well, does it?
It's amazing how much you can cut a yew back and for it to grow back. I mean, it's an incredibly resilient plant that responds really well to pruning.
Oh,
It would have to be significant.
my father trimmed the yews in front of the house I lived in growing up, and they never grew back.
Because we just, my neighbor and I trimmed her yews back. They were like 6 feet tall and ratty. We trimmed them back to like 2 feet. And
Well, I'm glad to hear that modern yews are able
and
to
they
do
came
that.
back. So it's, Andrew, I'm noticing there's one mistake in this photograph along the fence along College Avenue. There's a hedge shown inside the fence, which is that's not correct. I think that's just a mistake on this angle shot.
No. Yeah, I don't think it's included in any of the other.
It's not. Well, it's hard to tell. It might have been, but that's not intended. We're not adding any plantings inside of the fence. We're allowing you to see through to the lawn and to the house.
Do you have a rendering that shows I thought you had said there would be planting by the current 2 parking spots by the carriage house. Do you have a rendering you can show?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a hedge inside the fence that comes up to almost the top of the fence. And then the dogwood inside of that is probably about 14 feet tall.
And are the cars parked there?
The cars will park there, but this rendering, yeah, you can see the top of a
Here's-
car.
Yeah, there's a car, a sedan there. The top of the fence is essentially 5.5 feet, so it's quite tall. And
This hedge will actually, this is rendering, and this hedge will be taller than the fence, whatever height it needs to block the cars. It's a viburnum hedge, which typically, like, the viburnum hedges are maintained at, like, 5, 6 feet. So it's going to be a little bit taller than the fence. Its purpose is to screen the cars.
Right. And there's parking there for 2 spots. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, we're taking the 2 spots that existed that were kind of head in from the street and just tucking them in.
Okay. Thank you.
So, we're trying to accommodate our clients' needs for the house in a way that doesn't detract from the property and references historic precedents that we found.
On the driveway component, the request for it to be a raised driveway is solely based on the recommendation by James Urban to make sure that there was minimal disturbance to the tree's critical root zone, right? If I understand that correctly, I'm reading your letter right now. I think that confirms it, but the only reason that it will be raised, is for protection of that tree. Is that accurate?
That's correct. And Andrew, if you go ahead into my construction documents, there you go. So this drawing shows, so the raised portion of the driveway is only, the red areas are transition areas where it slopes from existing grade, and it comes up about maybe 8 inches. And then if you could run your hand along the raised portion, Andrew, the raised portion is from there all the way around to there. And if you show Andrew, up in the corner, there is a detail that shows how the grade will transition. Yeah. So here you can see where existing grade is, and then 8 inches up is the top of the new oyster shell. And then the soil on the edges, because we're only talking about 8 inches, and this is where the hedge is going to be. The soil transitions the grade down, so you're not going to see like a raised vertical face. It's the landscape is going to roll right up to it. So from outside the property, you're not even going to perceive this 8-inch change.
In your letter, you noted that there was an attached letter from from James specifically. I'm not seeing that letter. Would you mind just running through that, James Urban, his the letter that discusses his findings?
I don't know if I have that. Oh, is that? I did reference it, and it had been submitted before, but
Yeah, is it simply the testimony that he gave to us previously rendered as a letter?
yeah, well, it was a letter that he had written previous to the testimony that was.
Oh, it was prior to testimony. I thought maybe this was after that testimony. Okay. No, I think that's fine. I wanted to make sure there wasn't something else that he had done.
No, that was the letter, and then there was the testimony.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think Mr. Williams has asked any questions. I just want to be sure that he gets his chance if he wishes.
I've
Bill?
been enjoying the discussion.
Okay.
In that way, my questions were answered.
Oh, very good.
I have a few
Well,
questions. Are we at the questions part?
you've been asking questions, and so Cecil, and so have I.
I only asked one, but I have
Well, I
another
know.
question if we're asking
Then
questions.
you should ask.
Please.
So,
Please.
the elephant in the room is this circular driveway. And I understand, I commend the owner and all of the work you have put in to make this beautiful home back into a single family home. As a single family home, I can see that there's space for 4 cars already. I'll wait for you to get, there you go. So my thought is, why is the owner interested in this very large circular driveway and the addition of a curb cut? Have you all or the owner ever considered a half circle driveway on the garage side, where it would be a lot less impactful on many of the attributes that the public comment has been criticizing, and some of the code would be very much stretched to allow for the circular driveway? What about a half driveway? How many cars does a house need to park?
We can't expand the driveway in a way that would allow a car to sort of turn around without completely overly impacting that existing cedar. So this approach, not only is the owner attracted to this, from the photographs that he's seen and how he wants to use the property, it's also the best way to have a car come in and out of here in a way that doesn't disturb the tree. Because once you get past the front door, like there is no tree impact of that piece of driveway. So it's not doing anything from tree impact. But it's just that period of history, that like 1885 to 1930s is a period of history about this house that the owner loves. And being associated with the Naval Academy, he's known it in the setting of the landscape that it's been in the last like 100 years.
But he has certainly never seen a circular driveway in his lifetime.
He is not, but he has seen the photos.
Well, but there were horses then. I mean, I understand he's fallen in love with the property, and it's a wonderful property. And like I said, I think you've done a wonderful job, but I don't think those things are relevant to the code and the decisions we should be making based on what he's fallen in love with and how many cars a person needs to be able to park. I mean, a horse-drawn carriage is a very different view than 8 cars on a circular driveway. And I'm just asking if you considered doing a half circle. So I guess the answer is no. He doesn't want a half circle.
He does not.
Well, I don't think we could, I don't know how a half circle, I mean, in what area, in this area here?
Well, where the current carriage house is, you have a little car drawn, like that car, there's 2 cars in the front, there's 2 cars in the garage, there's another car right outside. That car is going to have to back up and, turn around to go out either way. So I don't know that that's, I'm no tree expert, so I don't know, but I don't know why the cars couldn't just use the one curb cut and, have to turn around, like that car that's currently facing a boxwood tree would have to turn around and head out the way where the other cars are all parked. I don't know why they would have to go on an additional U to the new curb cut.
I think the driveway is, the circular driveway has been introduced to kind of restore the historic landscape based on the photos and time period that we saw and showed previously. It's not really focused around the automobile, and I don't think that the owner's intent is to have cars parked along the circular portion of the driveway. And if they were, they'd be quite transient in nature. It's a historic home in the 21st century, and automobiles are unfortunately part of the landscape here. And like very many historic homes in Annapolis, they include cars parked in historic driveways that were probably once utilized for horse and carriage as well. And I think we'd be willing to reduce other areas of parking as well. The guest parking, we'd be willing to eliminate that as well. And there's,
I think from the comments that we've received by the public and various discussions of Mr. Towers' report, it's the circular driveway that is the issue as far as the view and the greenscape and the tree and all of those things. I don't think it's the 2 cars parked behind the hedge and the carriage house, which is already being expanded to accommodate more cars.
I think this is a good place for us to consider hearing from Mr. Tower.
Can I ask one question first? And I know Bill has had his hand up. I don't know if that was intentional, Bill, or not.
It was.
Oh, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Bill,
Okay,
my
I
question
just
is
turned it off.
15 seconds, I think. You mind if I jump ahead? But you've been waiting, so I'll defer.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
My question is, so I know the driveway is supposed to be topped with oyster shells. Would the material for the driveway be considered impervious surface for the purpose of code review specifically?
It could we make it well,
I guess so. Here, like in the context, and I apologize, Bill, because it's longer than 15 seconds.
That's
If
okay.
somebody were to do this circular driveway, put the oyster shells on top, and then 10 years in the future, somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to pave it," would they be able to pave over that because it's considered, impervious already, or is it considered pervious in the sense that that would be adding to, the FAR? That's my understanding. That's my question.
they would they would have to excavate a substantial amount of it out and basically redo it.
Yeah, that's a what if question, Cecil, and I think John has to give the answer to that.
And just to brief about your whether pervious or impervious. The oyster shell driveway is built up as a series of gravel and then a top coat of oysters. And water flows through it a little more than it does like asphalt, but it wouldn't be considered impervious. However, we could explore ways to make it more pervious.
Well, and my concern is honestly less about the water flow because I think that's going to be covered. It's more so about how a code review would be considered in the future if this was in place. Because if I have gravel at my house, I can pave it without having to get approval for additional FAR.
Again, I don't mean to try and cut anyone
Well,
off.
and Bill
but
had a question, and
this is-
I totally took charge. I'm sorry, Bill.
This is a what if
Okay.
question. It's not the part of the application. So, Bill?
Okay, basically what I was going to say, Mary kind of covered fairly well, is the car right now that's sitting in front of the garage and the box works in the corner would say that you needed the loop in order to get turn around. If I remember right, when you take your driving exam, you do a T-turn, you back up. The car could back into a little section of that drive and go right out the entrance it came in. So why do we need the right-hand side of that drive?
Yeah, and
Again, I don't think we're saying the car can't turn around here. And I think it's all clear that it can. And the
I'm
clients,
sorry, I thought that's what I heard someone say. I apologize.
no. And again, we're trying to restore it to the historical photos that we showed. And, just like I said previously, the Secretary of Interior Standards recognizes that, it's not just building preservation, it's also site features. And when they are erased, they encourage those, when their historic features have been lost, the standard permits their restoration when supported by documentary evidence. And this is precisely what we're proposing here. And it's a historic feature that we're trying to restore. It's not a feature added for convenience for the automobile and to allow excessive cars to park on the site. That's just not the intent of our design here.
I mean, we see a complete picture in these historic photos of, the addition of the porch, which happened in the same period that this carriage drive was added. And that's what the owner wants to recreate, is that period of this view of the house.
Gentlemen, I'm going to interrupt here and insist that what we seem to have come to is a focus on the driveway, the wishes of the owner versus the guidelines that we are obligated to adhere to. And I appreciate your efforts and your extensive, thorough presentation, but I think we must hear the staff's response.
And John, when you speak, like I know, Will, you mentioned my question was a what if, but I do feel like my question is really pertinent to the design guidelines because what I understand the design guidelines to be very clear on is paving. And that's and what I don't see this as paving, but I would have concern if this could lead to future paving, like create a path for somebody to pave it in the future. And so that if when John gives his staff report, if you would mind, kind of just speaking to that, I want to understand the implications if this were approved, how that would be considered with reference to potential future paving. I think that's really important for
Oh,
me specifically.
I could start with that. And Bob, if you could leave this picture up, that would be very helpful. So I do see unapproved paving happening all the time, but this would require an approval. You simply can't bring in an asphalt truck and pave it, especially if it's oyster shell. And this is so visually prominent, it would be a problem. But I appreciate what you're saying because it does happen that trucks come on the weekend, but typically it's asphalt driveways being repaved, and there are two, one on Duke of Gloucester Street and one on Conduit Street, recent repavings, and it's done. What are you going to do? Make them take it out? But it's unfortunate. Uh, so anyway, Bob, could you zoom in to the foundation here in this picture? The reason I ask is because I don't see the foundation plantings here. It's not that I don't think there shouldn't be foundation plantings. I think it is certainly all right to consider that the ownership of this building by the Navy is important, and that's a period of significance, and that is what I think part of your design addresses, that your client has seen the Naval Academy Foundation plantings and wants to continue them, but they're not here. I just don't see them. So I don't think there's a historic precedent for foundation plantings here, but certainly there were plantings of some variety. It actually looks like maybe some lilac bushes or something like that. I don't know, but the foundation is pretty visible there. Not saying that the commission shouldn't consider your foundation planting plan favorably. I'm just saying from a historic standpoint, there isn't a clear precedent. I think that things would change over time with this building. In terms of the hardscape, I'm not really sure that the hardscape for the pool has been discussed or really presented. And it wasn't previously approved. What is the material that you're considering using there?
Brick.
Brick. Okay. Right. So it's already, the hardscape for the area around the pool is already brick.
Correct. Yeah.
So this is just a modification.
Yeah.
Which is administratively approvable?
It's probably better that we approve it as you approve it or disapprove it as a commission. So that's brick there, and most of that is brick now. So the plantings around the brick wall, does your client not like one of the oldest and most significant brick walls in Annapolis, or he just wants to have some low plantings?
No, the putting the arborvitaes in front of the brick wall was an afterthought on this drawing, which is why we've changed it since we saw the comments.
Okay, but
We don't
this is
intend- we
this,
don't-
this
the
is a
owner does not
really
dislike-
Right. This is one of the most significant walls in the city. So how tall are these? Because I didn't see a change of specification, so I don't know what the specification is for what you're proposing to plant by the wall there.
I didn't want to muddy this with introducing new drawings at the presentation, but is it further down there, Andrew? You included, oh, here we go. So, so they're now low hydrangeas along the brick wall. So those are hydrangeas
Okay.
like 2, 3 feet tall. And
Mhm.
then there was a comment about the arborvitae everywhere. So I changed this to Ilex crenata, which is a very boxwood looking ilex, and they get 6 to 8 feet. So we happily responded to those comments and recognized that that wall should not be hidden. We were thinking in terms of privacy that you guys would want people not to see the pool. So that was like our first thought is, oh, hide the pool. But we didn't intend to hide.
Well, it's not the only pool on the block. There's a pool as the crow flies, I think maybe 200 feet away. Well, so uh, I I have to say, just because I'm looking at it and this is the first time I'm seeing it, I I don't think he needs a privacy screening. Or the client doesn't need a privacy screening at the brick wall. So is it an aesthetic
We're
decision
not.
to have the ilex turn the corner?
The tall evergreens stop at the brick wall.
That's not what I'm seeing. I thought I was seeing hydrangeas, low hydrangeas, and then change to ilex. Uh, is that crenata? 6 to 8 feet. So that's what I'm assuming that species did. Look, this is minor detail stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing it and I'm saying, okay, there was a problem before. I don't think the problem is solved.
Well, the zoom in isn't the end. If I don't, maybe I misunderstand this, but doesn't the brick wall end right where your hand is, Andrew? Right?
The brick wall goes
Yeah.
all the way across the block, and it was built by Chase and Ogle. And it subdivides the block.
Because I must have misread this because the survey we have indicates that it stops there and I must have not picked that up. But we don't intend to screen that brick wall. Like that brick wall will not be screened, and I'll go out to the site and make sure that only low plantings are against that.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's an existing 21st century HVAC enclosure that's also brick, and I think we just need clarity on where that starts and stops, and maybe
That's coming out of that corner, right?
that's correct. It's right in that area. And, there's actually a higher brick wall, it seems, in the pictures that we have. So
Yeah.
I think
It's hard to
well,
see.
this could be adjusted later. I literally feel like I'm taking us into the weeds, but if the commission is going to make a decision on this, it should be based on precise information and a design that follows that. In terms of the hardscape, as I've said, the brick hardscape around the pool, I think is certainly approvable and meets with guidelines.
John,
Yes?
one thing I think the owners should be aware of, or the designers, is that pool water historically is very corrosive to brick because of the chemicals, causing a decay of that material. And what I'm concerned is they install that, it decays, they decide they need to replace it. I know, let's pave it or put down a bunch of concrete.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that.
and Bob, I believe this would
I
be
have seen brick around pools in the past.
We do it all the time.
No, I understand that, but based on reading and history, brick being a porous material, it is more easily damaged, and the chlorines and all crystallize and cause it to corrode.
this would be a saltwater pool. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's less of a
Yeah, we're not using chlorine. So it's either a saltwater pool, which uses salt, to create was it calcium chloride that actually reacts and kills the bacteria. So you're not putting chlorine in the pools anymore. And there's also ozone pools, which is not using any chemicals, which we use as well. So
Gentlemen, the problems are
back to
piling up.
Will's kind of push for John. John, I would like to hear your staff report, and I would like to kind of ask I'm reading it right now, and I'm seeing a lot of the reasons that there was a lack of recommendation or recommendation against. I feel like has been covered here today. So I'd like to understand if your staff report has changed at all based on the information provided too.
Changed from what I submitted,
Yes.
or no, from what I submitted, 2 weeks ago? No. But there's another item here that I think is important to discuss, and that is because we clarified that the parterre was not approved, it needs to be reviewed tonight. And my position with the parterre is that it creates a sense of false history. It's an 18th century design element, and it was never there. And now it's going to be in the most prominent facade of the house. So commissioners, consider the effect. I mean, it's a lovely thing, but does it fit with our guidelines in that placement?
John, we've all read your staff report, but I would like you to now, for those who are listening and may not have read your staff report, to just go over your recommendations against approval, just that part of your report.
The simple, if we're talking about the circular driveway, the simple aspect of that is that the guidelines are very strong on this, and the note here is, in addition to the appropriateness of a proposed curb cut or parking area, the commission will also consider each physical factors as whether the cut will affect existing vegetation, etc. And I think that it's very important that we consider the character of this property. There are different periods of significance. For instance, the foundation plantings that are being proposed are really not shown in the time that the circular driveway was there. So we're jumping ahead to the Naval Academy's ownership, and thinking, okay, is that permissible? Is by guidelines? But in terms of the circular driveway, and this isn't just within my staff report. So I spoke to Burr, head of Department of Public Works, and he said, yes, we did. We do think that the traffic study allows for approval of the curb cut close to the intersection of College and King George. That traffic study is based on the exit of 5 cars a day. That's it. No more.
It looks like they were there for a significant period of time, tracking every car in and out. They in the report it does show.
But I'm just saying that's what it's based on, and Burr
Oh,
said,
5 cars a day of residents, you're saying, not
right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Burr said to me, and I thought, oh boy, you've approved this. He said, but if there are a lot of accidents, then we'll have to reconsider this. And I thought, great. So we're going to put something if there are accidents in a place where there could be accidents, because you can take a right on red at College Avenue, and you can also take a left out of the driveway. So I'm just saying, okay, this was an issue previously, but a traffic study's been done, and the traffic study is based on 5 cars a day. Well, right now in this drawing, there are 5 cars. But what happens when you can get a dozen cars in? So the most important thing, or most important aspect of my staff report, is that I oppose the circular driveway, and I oppose it for a number of reasons. But the biggest reason is that I think even with the low hedge around it, it's still highly visible. And the brick and picket fence is relatively transparent, so transparent that it can come right up to the edge of the curb cut because it's considered see-through. So all of this can be visible, can be seen from the street readily. And I think one of your renderings illustrated how visible it is.
Can you go back to the rendering so we could look specifically from the King George Street side? And John, can you talk to me a little bit more? Like when I'm reading guidelines, I believe, what is it, C10 and B13, I'm not seeing conflict with those two guidelines. And I want to bet, because I feel like now I know there's been updates to everything since your report, but I'm struggling to see the conflict with the guidelines. Aside from the view shed, which
well, it is the view shed.
But the view shed is the only thing, not because I feel like, because that's the only thing that you feel like is in conflict now.
Well, it's the primary thing. The easy thing here is, and this is just like another application 114 Duke of Gloucester Street. They can park 4 cars in one place, but they want additional parking for 6 or 8 cars. And it has an effect on historic landscapes, and it would have a huge effect here. The historic photo that I sent shows how prominent a car would be on this driveway.
Bob, can you jump to
right now, we're
the
not
King George
seeing
Street
it.
side?
Yeah,
Sorry?
that's Andrew.
I'm sorry, John.
It would be visible from all sides, not just.
You had a
Yeah.
bird's eye that looked down. I think that was really helpful to understand how the view shed would be impacted. There, that's perfect. That's perfect. John, so what I'm reading here, so B13, garage and surface parking areas shall be concealed from the street by their location or by screening with architectural landscape features. For new driveway construction to be considered, plans must be in scale with the proportions of the site consistent with the architectural era. So the argument that you're saying that it's in conflict with B13 specifically is that the hedging or the screening of the driveway is insufficient. Is that accurate?
Well, I think there's more to it than that also. First of all, this area is going to be raised 8 inches. So relative to
Not that area.
the street, it is going to be what the driveway is not going to be raised.
Not in this area that you see. That doesn't happen until you get close to the tree over in the corner near the garage. It's on grade,
But some of it's raised.
but not until you get back to where like the garage is going around the backside.
Right. So okay, by the garage and up to and around the critical root area, you have a raised driveway.
But in what we're looking at right now, Bob, can we see any part of the driveway that's going to be raised in this photo specifically?
Well,
But
but
I think
isn't
the
the,
view sheds, that's the most important view shed right there is from King George
isn't
Street.
the
in
real
my
point
opinion.
here that there could be a line of cars on that driveway? It doesn't matter whether it's raised 8 inches here or not. To me, it's still going to change dramatically the view that exists today, and certainly not be anything like the original 18th century view. I don't think the discussion of 8 inches of raised or not is really very significant.
In my opinion, they showed pictures that showed the driveway existed with cars, not just horse and buggy. And in my opinion, the rendering I'm looking at right now is a significant improvement upon what is there currently.
And I'm saying
You
that I
mean the lawn?
disagree with that strongly and support the staff position. They're picking and choosing what historical period suits the convenience of the owner, which is his right to make the request. And they're doing a good job of representing the owner's interest. I'm not quibbling with any of that. I feel like we are more obligated to keep it as close as possible to the way in which the Ogle created it. And this is a significant landmark that is highly visible, and they're proposing significant changes that I think are to the detriment of supporting our guidelines and preserving our history.
Well, that's my opinion is one thing. I don't think this goes against the guidelines. That's what I'm saying, and that's
Well,
because I think there's a big difference between how we feel whether or not they're addressing the appropriate period versus whether or not it's against a guideline. And that's what I'm trying to better
I'm saying
understand.
because I think they violate the guidelines. I agree with the staff's interpretation of the guidelines, and I think we're getting to the point where you're entitled to your opinion, and your opinion is clearly expressed, and we have to move on to a vote, or else we're just wasting everybody's time.
Okay, so what I had hoped to see and what I had asked to see and what had been discussed as a result of previous meetings was a redesign of the parking area. And there's still a desire upon the part of the applicants to get approval for the U-shaped driveway. But I think that this commission is comfortable with approving the parking area around the garage addition, which is already approved. And I don't think that this commission is comfortable with creating a U-shaped driveway. But I have to go back to the parterre because this is important, and I really didn't think it was. I mean, I don't think that it has been addressed as strongly or as carefully as it should. So I'm going
You
to read.
recommended the parterre, John. Is that correct? Like, you said you recommended that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I looked at it in the rendering tonight, and I have to say there's a lot of material that wasn't in the package. So when I looked at it in the rendering, I said, okay, we're creating a false sense of history here.
So are you changing your recommendation for?
I'm telling you that I'm going to read Secretary of the Interior Standards number 3. Each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding a conjectural feature or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. So consider the parterre very carefully. It's a major element. In the drawings, it didn't seem to be as prominent. In the renderings, it's huge. Sorry.
But you did state that parterres were appropriate for.
Well, we have 20th century foundation plantings, 18th century parterre. You know, we're spinning the dial of architectural significance and saying, well, where is this going to land? And I think that it is important to maintain as much as possible the original structure and the views of the original structure.
So if the owner, and he actually would be happy with us adding no plants to the King George side of the house. I added the parterre because in your comments you said parterres were appropriate. And we're not adding any foundation plantings because they exist and the owner wants to maintain them. So I was trying to bridge both of those comments of foundation plantings being not appropriate, so we're not adding them, but adding a parterre because that was appropriate. So I was just trying to play a game of whack-a-mole to understand how to react to those comments.
Well, that also throws me off too, because John, you specifically noted the guidelines, how we should screen a lot of these hardscapes, and the parterre seems to be the method of screening, and that was the only thing that you had recommended.
Well, do we want to screen the front of Ogle?
Well, 36 inches to me feels appropriate for plantings.
It's no
It's
higher than
so it's Cecil, it's a major feature. And
Yeah, and they were not
Bob,
part of
I'm
the
not trying to make it difficult for
landscape.
you. I'm just saying
No,
this is
well, I want my biggest thing is I want to make sure I have clarity around how we're approaching the guidelines specifically, because we're all going to have opinions about what should be done or what shouldn't be done. But I want, like, for me, I feel like we're going back and forth on a couple of things here with the guidelines, and I don't know that there's clarity really on it doesn't seem like anything is recommended for approval now at all. So now I'm just trying to understand if the parterre is not recommended by you, then that takes away the screening component that had, in my mind, covered the guidelines for some of the hardscapes. So if there's no parterre, then that changes how I approach looking at the hardscapes and or the driveway.
How large is the parterre as shown?
Oh, let's see. I can guesstimate it. Actually,
I'm gonna measure it right here, Bob, for you.
can you measure it? Yeah, because I don't have a scale with me.
It's
Thank you.
12 feet by about roughly 16 feet.
Thank you.
So like a room.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's a small terrace.
And John, if that were to go away, would the path still, would you prefer the plantings along the path, or is that also not an appropriate?
I think the path is reversible. It's fine. If they want to do it, the parterre is just a feature that wasn't there, and
Okay.
it's 18th century, and sorry, but
Well, parterre is 16th century, right?
18. I don't believe so.
I mean,
Thought it was
So
fine.
I don't think that Ogle had a parterre. In other
Well,
words,
it wasn't there, right?
right?
That wasn't there.
we
So
don't.
can I just make another comment about the driveway? I understand what you're saying about the owner has fallen in love with these features and wants to keep them, whether they were, correct to the original or not. Why couldn't you just do an oyster shell path, a walking path? It would be visually the same and it wouldn't have cars parked on it. And it would be a walking path. It would be beautiful. Everything could be the same, except instead of however many feet wide it has to be for cars, which we know are inevitably going to be lined up there, why not have it be a walking path? Even if it was only half of the U was a walking path and the other was a wider part for cars. It would be visually the same. It would remove all the worry about this being lined with cars. And you're saying he doesn't care about actually using it for cars. Well, then have it be an oyster shell walking path. I would be willing to approve that.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to have the screening shrubbery at all.
Yeah. And I think the screening shrubbery actually looks worse. It makes it so visible that you're trying to hide something. In those pictures you showed, it was a little oyster shell path that a horse went on, but it wasn't trying to hide it, and it wasn't horses lined up all day on the driveway. So I'm just wondering if he's fallen in love with that look. I love that look too, but I don't love the idea of cars on it. And then when that tree dies, it's going to be really awful. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, I do think that they did their diligence with the tree expert. It does.
Oh.
I have faith and confidence in James Urban and Bartley's oversight of the project. On that note,
Yeah, I'm not
but
saying
that
we're
like
wrong, but I'm saying nobody knows. And some point that tree is going to die. Everything does. So
Now-
at some point it's going to be gone.
it
And to
does
your
seem like
point,
I'm the
Cecil,
only one who's maybe talking slightly in favor of some of these things. And if that's the case, I don't need to speak anymore because, the applicant might want to change, how we approach the rest just for the sake of time here. I don't know. I mean, put it this way, my overall comment is I think with respect to the fact that I can't really identify the proper plantings to put here, and I'm not an expert on that front, I think what you guys presented tonight was fantastic. I think having the traffic study was critical for my feelings about whether or not that's something that's feasible for me. And I think that the screenings that were put in place, I think address and cover the guidelines alongside the oyster shell topping. So that's my opinion on a lot of this. I think the renderings look great, but if I'm the only one that's even remotely in that conversation, then I'll just defer because we don't need to spend any more time talking about it. But just throw that out there since it's almost
That's
9
very
o'clock.
considerate for you to say that, Cecil. I appreciate it.
So there's been no mention of public comment, which I think is important because this is a public hearing, but it's a virtual public hearing. So there were 3 comments, one from Mr. Costello, one from Karen Timer Brown, and one from Sharon Kennedy, which were not favorable toward the driveway specifically.
I did
And-
try to address every single one of their concerns, John, in my questions, if that's any edification.
No, well, good. It's a process. And the deliberation here is worthwhile. Cecil, you always make good points.
Yeah.
They're interesting. They don't always align with mine, but that's okay. So and then there's John Richards, who would like to make a public comment, and I believe he's on the call. I believe, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, so my comment was to the point of if we don't even seem to have close to a consensus, maybe that changes the course of the rest of the meeting and can save us 30 minutes of public comment potentially. Not to quiet anybody, but if it doesn't seem like there's even remotely a chance of approval here, then maybe we can save some time. But if I'm wrong on that, and other people maybe feel closer to what I'm feeling, then obviously that changes things.
Well, John and Cecil, I'm going to suggest that I think Cecil is very thoughtful and considerate in stating his position clearly and his willingness to proceed. And I think in light of at least 2 other parties that want to make a presentation tonight, and I encourage a commissioner to make a motion for approval or denial. But I think we've talked long enough.
May I say something?
Of course.
Based on the feedback we given, I think looking at the circular driveway and seeing if we can reduce the width of it, that would prohibit cars from driving across it. That's a smaller scale that's closer to the depiction of the historic photos. I think, revisiting that, withdrawing it from the application and coming up with a proposal for that as in a revised fashion may be appropriate.
If you're willing to do that, I think that is a very thoughtful way to proceed, and I would support that.
That's what we'd like to do, withdraw the circular driveway from this application to come back with a revised approach more in line with the commission's recommendations of reducing it in width and prohibiting cars from driving over it.
Then I appreciate that and would await, I hope, as early as September, having you back again for a new application, or revised, I should say, revised application.
So may I say, just because I'm the only one who's aware of how many applications are on the September docket. You all, of course, would be first if you're coming back, which I think is a good idea. But there are already 5.
But we know that
These
some
are-
of those people
This
may
is just
not.
the way things are going.
But I do, Fred, Andrew, I do very much appreciate you seeing that and making that decision. So let's conclude. Let's wrap this up, and we'll see you again as soon as possible.
Can I ask one question of John while I'm here, just to
course.
clarify? I don't want to go through this again if I'm just not getting it. Is it approvable for us to simply leave the existing plantings around the house
Of course.
and not add any of the parterres on
Yes.
the indoor side?
Yes. Yeah. And Bob, if you'd like to meet and go over this, I'd be fine with that.
Okay, I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry that this has proved to be so difficult, but we share your, I don't want to say pain, but your forbearance.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
such a nice job.
Yeah, you really did make a very good presentation.
It's going to be great.
Okay.
Thanks,
I
Bob.
see that Ms. Fogarty is waiting to present her material to us about the historical information that's proposed to be put at the city dock. So if we could move on.
And is and forgive me, is this next presentation something we're voting on, or is this just administrative review?
Pre-application.
Yeah, it's a pre-application and it will be
Okay,
brief.
because I kind of have a hard stop here at 9. You know, if there was a vote on that or something, I could see about extending. But if it's just an application, I think I'll probably bow out here in a few minutes and I'm gonna review the materials that you share. I apologize because I know I talked a lot tonight. I'm part of the problem.
No need for apologies, Cecil. You always make thoughtful comments, informed comments, and I appreciate that.
Will, are you
Even if I don't agree.
introducing a new commission member?
Pardon?
Are you introducing a new commission member there in your life?
Our favorite
All right.
kind.
Yeah, come on. Ms. Fogarty, please.
I am checking in with Paul. Paul, can you put the presentation up, please? And is Paul there?
Yeah, I'm here. Would you also like James promoted?
James promoted, Tracy promoted, and if Burr is still with us, Burr promoted.
Okay.
So while Paul is putting this up, I know you all have had a long evening, so we will hopefully be quick and to the point. First, thank you so much for hearing our pre-application for the cultural legacy elements for City Dock Park. Tonight we have, as you see on your screen, James Sink, who is the landscape architect, Tracy Rivas, who is the interpretive design expert, and in the background, we have our Public Works Director, Burr Vogel. As HPC is aware, let me wait till they get this up. Let's see. Okay. Next slide, please. Paul, thank you for getting this up. Next slide after that. As HPC is aware, the City Dock Park was approved by your commission, the site plan in 2023. And again, the amendments to the site plan were approved in the fall of 2024. Next slide, please. What's important, okay. Next slide, Paul. Okay, and slide after that. What's important about this is that in the approval of the amendment in 2024, we brought, among other items, we brought the electrical buildings, the stage with the pergolas, the fountain, and the concept for the cultural legacy elements of the park. The general concept was approved by the commission with the understanding that we would come back to you with the details as we were ready to implement them. Chris Haley was going to be joining us this evening, and he is not well. He sends his regrets. But Chris Haley, we also, Brendan was involved in the Cultural Legacy Committee. And
Mr. Greeley, a member of our commission.
Yes, yes. The committee really kicked things off by identifying the themes that they thought would be appropriate for the cultural legacy elements. One of the main themes was industriousness. They also identified the theme of the city docks' deep connection to the water and the maritime industry. And what they recommended was that items like, excuse me, next slide, please. The Sanborn maps, Paul, next slide. This is the Sanborn map from 1897, which shows the historic occupants of City Dock. And the committee was very clear. They wanted things like who lived here, what they did, brought to life through the cultural legacy elements. Next slide, please. This was the initial location that the committee identified, both electrical buildings, one on the stage and one in the park, as locations, next slide please, to include, and this was an early image of the electrical building in the park, including some cultural legacy imagery. So these were the initial recommendations. Next slide, please. And with those recommendations, Whiting Turner and the architects brought on, next slide, Howard Rivas. Howard Rivas, and you'll hear from Tracy Rivas this evening. Howard Rivas has a tremendous resume in that they prepared the interpretive designs for the Holocaust Memorial Museum, the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel, the American History Museum at the Smithsonian, Contrabands in Freeman Cemetery in Alexandria, Virginia. You all should have received a copy of the conceptual interpretive design document that they prepared for the city. And also there is a research document that was used in preparation if anyone is interested. Next slide, please. Tracy, I think this is a good point for you to start off, and this is Tracy Rivas.
Hello, everyone. I'll try to be brief because I know you must be getting tired. So we were brought on to look at the history, look at the site, and propose an interpretive program. We focused on this overlay of one of the Sanborn maps that show some of the historic uses of the site. We know there were many oyster packing houses in the area, three of which are overlaid in the current proposal for the dock. Some housing for the laborers that would have worked in those oyster packing houses, and then the sawmill and grist mill on the other side of the dock. Next slide. We also did a lot of research into the visual assets to tell this history. So we looked for what was available historically of the surrounding buildings. This image on the left is from the 1890s and really shows that this was a working waterfront. Those are all nets on the ground there. So it really was kind of a very busy, industrious place. Next slide. From the period of the Civil War all the way up to World War II, oystering was very central to Annapolis, was a big part of the economy and a big part of the site. So we looked at kind of what was involved with the oystering industry, how it was done. Next slide. And then what's shown here is actually a fully fledged interpretive plan. So we have 20 elements. It's quite a robust interpretive plan. We have sort of interpretation. Not everything is kind of it's all being shown here, but some are kind of more discrete interventions in the landscape. Some are a little more prominent, but they're sort of sprinkled as breadcrumbs to add a little bit of historical interest as visitors move through the site. What was actually budgeted for are the one marked 5. That's the first electric building that you encounter. And what was proposed there was to focus on the oyster industry on site. And then number 7 at the corner of the active park is a marker for the 1897 Sanborn map. And then where you're seeing the number 13, this is that second electric building. And we've changed the focus a little bit of what the imagery around that electric building would be. Next slide. So this was the original rendering we did of for interpretation on the oystering industry on site, wrapping the electrical building. So you're seeing an image on the north side that would face Dock Street of oyster shuckers. This would be one of the oyster packing houses. And then on the west side, you're seeing an image of the use of oyster tongs. And then the proposal was to have a sculpted pair of oyster tongs present on the west side that visitors could kind of see the scale of them, kind of contemplate how difficult this activity actually was, and also a kind of a nice photo opportunity. And then you're seeing a rail. This is not funded, but we had shown a rail on the north side that would actually have more in-depth interpretation of the oystering industry in Annapolis. Next slide. Here you're seeing a rendering of that corner of Active Park. So we're proposing etching into the stonework at the corner the name City Dock, so that, you know, I think we all call it City Dock, but maybe visitors don't know that it has that name. And then using the 1897 Sanborn map, which is really the kind of the very height of the industrial kind of working wharf, etching that into the stonework, and then using this kind of water pattern to kind of turn the corner. Next slide. We just have a few pages from the interpretive plan of other kinds of interpretation that were proposed. This rendering shows this woman standing in front of one of the repeating elements. It's just has a very small footprint, just kind of a framed photo of the way the wharf looked before it was kind of a tourist destination, when it was a working wharf. So we have a couple images here. This page is focusing on the Filipino American community. There was a clubhouse at 4 Dock Street. So panel would be oriented looking at that site and putting you kind of in that same historical perspective. Next page. Another proposal was to elaborate on the Middle Passage plaque that's already planned for Susan Campbell Park. We really wanted to bring some of the really interesting primary source material on the Middle Passage to visitors' attention. We know that there were at least 18 to 19 slave ships that passed through Annapolis. These are recorded in various ways. This document in the middle that you're seeing is a 1767 advertisement announcing the arrival of a slave ship, Lord Ligonier. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this is the slave ship that was brought to the public's attention in Alex Haley's book, Roots. So I think it's very, very powerful to be able to see that in its kind of as a primary source document. And then the possibility of incorporating other kinds of interpretation or primary source materials like these runaway ads. But really kind of the impetus is to expand the story beyond this plaque to be a more full-bodied interpretation. Next page. Another of the proposals, it is a very long walk to the end of the dock, and we felt that it might be appropriate. There's also this big swath of lawn here. We thought that potentially at the corner of the lawn, there could be a sculptural element that could be seen at a distance and something for people to kind of walk towards as they walk along Ego Alley. This is just kind of a very early musing of what that sculptural element might be like. In the rendering we were showing kind of super scale oyster shells that visitors can sit in or interact with. There were proposals for like a vertical kinetic wind sculpture at this point, or perhaps a sculpture that would allude to the maritime history. Another idea that we'd had, keying off the historic presence of the, I think it's called Weeman Plath Maritime Instrument Company in Annapolis.
Weems and Plath.
Weems and Plath, yes.
Yeah.
To actually create some sort of almost a super scale maritime instrument to capture that history, like a barometer or a tidal clock. So actually have some kind of real-time weather data.
Tracy, thanks so much. I think, Paul, if you go 2 slides forward, we can go into the actual recommendations. Thank you. They are as
Wait, Ms. Bogarty. What do you mean recommendations?
the elements that you will be looking at this evening.
Let me remind you of something before we
They
go
are
further.
simply the structure of where the signs will be placed.
No, let me just say something. I should have said it before you began. The only thing that we're actually going to do tonight is to advise you on whether this is a feasible project that you should bring forward as
We
a formal
understand that.
application. And the commissioners may comment on various aspects before we make that decision. And nothing that we say either indicates approval of anything we reference or disapproval. Simply a concern that we would ask you to consider. Okay?
Yes, and the when it says locations for approval, what it refers to is these locations have already been approved in the September 2024. So we're not asking for that. The next slide, please. And here I would ask James Sink to describe what these panels will look like, how they will fit, and we've got a couple of construction drawings to show and share with the commission. James?
Yeah, thanks, Eileen. So we saw some views earlier, which were from that design strategies report that Howard Rebus produced, and that was sort of a menu of all the different things the city, the project could pick from, you know, either what their appetite was from a budget perspective or even just what really resonated with them. So this is one of those locations. There were some other elements like that long interpretive panel along the wall that are not being included in this view because they're not things that are proposed in this initial construction of the park. What is proposed are these 2 images on 2 sides of the electrical building On the left, that's the north side of the building, and on the right is the west side of the building. And I just wanted to speak a little bit to the appropriateness of these locations. As we saw in the Sanborn map, this is in proximity to one of the former oyster packing houses, which was located on this site, which, we think is a really nice connection to make. Telling the story about the things that were happening here on this site in this very location. It also activates one of the two entry points to City Dock Park. You can imagine people walking down along Ego Alley on the promenade, but there's also going to be people either entering the park or exiting the park along this northern side, along the shops lining Dock Street. So we think putting images here, activating this corner of the park, which would otherwise be sort of a blank facade of this this electrical building, is really a good thing to do for the design. Lastly, it fulfills that cultural legacy concept, which we presented the last time we were with you. Some of the things that Eileen went over in the beginning, which was to make this building sort of an outdoor museum. And these images really fulfill that vision. Next slide. And then I think here Tracy will kind of describe the content of these images.
Right. So this is actually the image on the left is from Annapolis. It's actually, I think, from one of the oyster chucking houses in Eastport. But it's really one of the best images we have of the activity that would have gone on, the sort of activity that would have gone on at City Dock. And this one is from 1894. And then the image on the right is a circa 1900 engraving of actually how oyster dredging is done.
Thanks. Next, Paul.
Oyster tonguing, sorry.
Yeah.
So we've got an elevation showing the dimension, the scale of these images. I'll also mention that we're really working with the function of these buildings with the placement of the images. So inside of the buildings is a lot of electrical equipment that gets used for the operation of the boat show and any other large events that are going to occur in the park. So what you're looking at here on this end of the building is actually a bifold door that will open upwards, revealing the connections inside. And the dashed line is where the fold in that door occurs. So we're just pointing out that there will be this seam that Howard Revis is working with to place the image appropriately, and to make sure that's not something that's highlighted or obscuring part of the image. And yeah, it's 9 feet tall. It covers the entire door, and it's 14 foot, roughly 14 feet, 8 inches wide. Next slide. So here we're looking at the north elevation. Along this facade, there's also a series of doors which open up, and they're man doors that allow people to walk inside to access electrical panels on both sides when you're in there. So that's what the dashed lines indicate, are those seams of where the openings occur on a very infrequent basis during events. And one of the differences you'll see, one of the developments, I'll say, from the original design strategies report recommendation is that we've kind of biased the image here to the left. And actually, I'll let Tracy speak some to the reason for doing that and why we determined that was really the best placement of the image.
I think it's biased to the left to give a little bit of break. We didn't want to kind of plaster imagery all over the wall. We still want you to read it as architecturally, So I think it gives a little separation between those two images, which are quite different. And it also brings the image of the oyster shuckers down in scale somewhat, so that the figures aren't so gigantic. They're roughly a similar scale to the figure that you saw on the west facade that's tonging. So the human figures are all approximately the same size.
Thanks, Tracy. Next image, please, Paul. James.
Yeah. So this is one of the this is the second location for one of the graphics, and it's one we really love because there's a direct connection between the content of the image. Here, it's a bird's eye view from the Severn looking at a historic view of Annapolis with the location that someone will be standing at viewing this image, looking off to the left, actually at Spa Creek and the Severn River. So there's this really nice connection between the viewer of this historic image and the content. At this location, it's something that's going to be viewed by anyone going to the Maritime Welcome Center, the new Maritime Welcome Center, which is directly behind where we're standing, and anyone visiting the proposed water feature, which is just off screen to the right. So this is that plaza between the stage and the water feature. So it's a fairly prominent location. We felt like on the other side of this building, it would actually distract from performances or things on the stage. And this was the right location for this view. Next.
Yeah, so this engraving, depending on which we actually use, there are a couple of variations to either 1855 or 1858. It's both a beautiful engraving, and gives you that orientation to the waterways that surround Annapolis. It's not always, especially for outside visitor, easy to understand how the dock relates to the bay. And this helps you understand that. Also helps you understand the layout of the city. And then as you kind of approach, if it's hard to see here, but you can really see that the dock itself was a very busy and industrious place. There's a lot of maritime activity going on. So it definitely reinforces that theme of industriousness.
Great. Next, Paul.
Ms. Fogarty, how many more slides do you have?
2.
Okay.
So on this north elevation of the building, it's another one of those bifold doors. So that's what the dash line indicates, is that fold in the bifold door. It's roughly the same size bifold door as the one we looked at earlier, 9 feet tall and 14 feet 8 inches wide.
Great. Next slide, Paul. James, did you want to address this one?
Didn't we already see this?
We
You
did.
saw it earlier.
And
This is just
it's
a
actually the
close-up.
same thing. There's no changes to what Tracy described earlier from the
Right.
report.
And the last slide. All of the elements that we are sharing with the Historic Preservation Commission, we believe comply with the guidelines. Specifically, they accurately represent Annapolis's history. They're high quality and high resolution, and they are prominently displayed without adverse effects to the larger historic district. And the last slide is just, next slide, Paul, to say that we would look forward to the recommendation to move the cultural legacy elements forward to public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a very thoughtful design and imagery and selection of imagery, et cetera. Is Bill Williams still with us? It doesn't seem to be. So, Mary, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm promoting him. He got kicked out for a second.
Oh, okay. Mary, do you have any comments or concerns in light of the fact that all we can do is recommend whether they should move forward or not?
I would be fine with them moving forward. I think it was a wonderful presentation and great interpretation of Annapolis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill? Bill, are you there?
I am now back. I was watching. No one would listen to me for some reason. I don't know what happened. All at once I lost my internet service. I couldn't get back in.
Oh. So what do you think about the presentation and whether we think it's feasible for them to move forward to a formal application?
I think it's feasible. I like the imagery that they are presenting. I don't know. Are there more images you intend to put into the park in other areas?
The Bill, the one of the maps, and it's I know where to find the map
okay.
that Tracy started with
Yep.
that showed all the dots on it.
Okay, I may have
It
missed
has
that.
25 elements in it. It's an issue, not an issue, of what the city will have the funding for at what point in time. So this point
Okay.
in time, we're bringing these 3 elements forward because they are can be, with your support, they can be implemented by hopefully by July or September of this coming year.
Okay, well, I thank you for that. When the recording is posted so I can watch that part, I will do that.
Okay, I think that it was a wonderful presentation and really a very thoughtful and comprehensive selection of historical material. So I definitely think that it's feasible, but I would just raise one concern on my part, and that is that it seemed like an extraordinarily ambitious proposal overall. I'm not sure that if everything were built out, it might make, despite its value, too much of an impact on the historic district in the immediate area. So just, think about that.
And what at any point over the next few years, it'll just be the 3 elements we shared with you this evening.
Yeah.
But at any point in the future, whatever was being anticipated to be implemented would come back to the Historic Preservation Commission.
I mean, I'll also add that I think one of the factors to the ones we chose to be built right now is they were going to be the most difficult to implement post-construction, after the fact. Whereas a lot of the other features are actually things that can be additive that the city can come back and add at a future date. Whereas, these would be really difficult or cost prohibitive to do so.
I think that's a very good strategy. Okay.
Thank you so much for your patience and attention.
Well, thank you for how thoughtful this was. It would really be as a a historian, I would love to see it, but like I said, I'm not sure we can get it all in there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, are the
Yes.
people from St. John still waiting?
I'll bet they are because they're very serious about the presentation.
Well, I don't know about Mary and Bill. It's a very substantial project and very worthwhile. I don't know that I have the stamina to give it careful attention at this hour.
I think that this is a foot in the door, and I believe that it's about 30 minutes.
Oh,
I'm still,
Okay.
I would advise if are they listening? Are they able to hear what we're saying?
Yeah, they're on.
Okay, if one of them, if you would promote at least one, whoever's the leader.
James Hall.
That's why I didn't recognize his name when Adam mentioned it earlier. So if we could have Mr. Hall and Bill and Mary, if you have the stamina, let me know, because I'm going to tell them I don't.
I'm just wondering, I know we don't meet in August unlike a actual city hall meeting. Is it even possible to have an administrative meeting remotely so they could not have to wait till September, or is that not possible? Because I don't really have it either tonight, like at this point. Is that
Our rule-
possible?
I don't
Our
know.
rules of
I don't know.
procedure,
I'd be
I don't
willing
know
to do
either, but
that.
our rules of procedure say that we don't meet in August. So there is some question about whether we can do it. I would certainly be willing to do it.
Yeah, I'd be
John,
willing to do it.
John, could you confirm that and then let us all know?
Well, it sounds like a decision is being made to hear this pre-application at a future meeting.
Yes.
Okay, I will find out.
Yeah. So I'm not planning to be away. Mary, you're not planning to be away.
No, I'm away, but I'm willing to do it remotely. If we're doing
Oh,
it
okay.
remotely,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere.
All right. So we have at least 3, and hopefully we could have more than that. We don't need to have a quorum because it's a, recommendation of whether they could have a feasible project, et cetera, and to give them input about whether we see problems. So, Mr. Hall, are you the
I'm-
lead?
It'd be the lead presenter for today, but certainly you have a number of presenters with us.
Do you understand our dilemma and our desire to
I do.
really be able to give you our full attention?
I certainly would. I certainly appreciate it and understand the situation that we're in. It's been a rather long night, full of very
Yeah.
interesting projects. But yes, we certainly have quite a bit of information to go through, as you've seen in our slide deck.
Yeah.
Uh,
So are
I-
you agreeable to delay your presentation?
Ali, and if you're agreeable to it, I think that we certainly, as a Kesler Group, would be around. Josh and Stephen and Robin, I imagine you would also be available sometime in August. Certainly come back and present this information.
We understand that it's been a long night for all of you. We do have a lot of interconnected projects that we really need to get underway as soon as possible. And we're really anxious to get on the docket and start reviewing with you. So if you can make an exception to meet with us in August, that would be wonderful.
If it's legally possible, then I think we will be able to do that. Okay,
If that's
I know that's
possible.
nitpicking, but that's the way that our rules of procedure have been written. And I just need confirmation that we can go ahead and do that. And then I certainly hope that we will do that. I think what you have is very necessary to the success and future of the college. I would do whatever I could to hear you out, but tonight I know I do not have the stamina to give my full attention to all you have. John?
I will contact the ombudsman and we'll work this out. But maybe we should talk about a date. Second Tuesday of August.
I don't think that would present any problem to me,
That's fine with me.
commissioners. Mary?
I'm good.
I can't do that date.
Okay.
It's like the one date I can't do. I can do that Thursday.
Second Thursday
have to be a
in
Tuesday?
August. No.
Works.
The
Does
13th.
that work for you, Bill?
That works. That works.
Okay.
13th works for me.
Thursday
Is it
the
the
13th.
13th? Thursday the 13th?
Yes.
Ooh, lucky day.
Thursday is the 16th. The
What
9th or
about
the.
Cecil?
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong date. I'm sorry.
August 13th.
Yes. I'm with you.
Okay. We don't know about Cecil. I mean, it would be better. Well, we know at least you'll get 3 of us, but hopefully you'll get more of us. People who couldn't come tonight are likely available, at least some of them.
Yes.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Okay.
I will ask. This is important, and the college has been patient. It's actually, I think, a very good plan. So, and it's literally been considered for years.
Yeah. I think it looks good, but I wouldn't make a commitment to that until I heard your presentation. Okay. thank you for your patience and understanding.
Thank you very much.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in
Second.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
See you all in August.
Okay. Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Good night.
My dog's already gone to bed.